So IKEA's decision to enter India is part of its big push to expand in emerging markets, which we've seen in China and Russia recently, and now in India. But what IKEA is going to need to take into account is a number of challenges that are going to be specific to the Indian market, and it's going to need to take account of these as it moves forward. So first, we have a set of challenges that concern economic and demographic factors. Everyone talks about a booming middle class, about very rapid economic growth. But in reality, we know from our research that home and garden expenditure among Indian consumers remains very low. In the US, we know that per household expenditure in 2011 was around $2,000. So $2,000 per household spent on home and garden products. This is in the US. In Germany, it's very similar. In China, an emerging market, it's significantly less. So we know it's around $300 per household. And then in India, it's even less than that. It's less than $50 per household spent on home and garden products in 2011. So how is IKEA going to tackle this kind of low expenditure on home and garden products in India? And one of the main reasons behind this low consumer expenditure in the home and garden sector is that India still maintains very high levels of poverty, and there's a very high level of income disparity and income inequality. And this is going to affect consumer expenditure. And this is also going to affect IKEA's identity as an affordable home and garden specialist. So if it's an advantage in a lot of its developed markets that its home and garden products are considered affordable, it's not going to have this advantage in India. And so what this also means is that moving forward, it's going to most likely be targeting upper income tiers, upper income segments. But in this case, it's going to confront a whole other set of challenges, many of which are cultural. So when we look at something like the do-it-yourself culture, are upper income Indian consumers going to take kindly to this idea of self-assembly, do-it-yourself construction of your flat pack furniture? Also, are Indian consumers going to take well to the self-service concept that definitely reigns in IKEA's retailing outlets? So these are all questions that IKEA needs to consider moving forward. And then finally, you have the issue of consumer tastes. Are consumers going to take to IKEA's very iconic Scandinavian designs, which have worked in most of its developed markets, and it's also beginning to work in China, but are Indian consumers going to be receptive to this design? And so what we've seen is IKEA's already begun to take into account these distinct consumer demands in India. In May 2012, IKEA launched its True Blue product range, which featured Indian-inspired home furnishings sourced fully by Indian suppliers. Now, what this means is that IKEA is already beginning to adapt its very highly standardized product range to the Indian consumer, which it doesn't do for any other market. So what this means moving forward is how much is IKEA willing to adapt to what is a quite distinct consumer demand and consumer landscape, and how much are those adaptations going to affect its very carefully constructed cost structure? So how financially sustainable is this venture going to be? So we'll be watching.